went to our local AMC. We saw A Quiet Place 2. This Now, if we had to be quiet in like some kind of apocalyptic event,
I can hear my dog downstairs right now.
It'd be over. Anyway, this movie got pushed for a long time because of the pandemic. But finally opened. This is a sequel to A Quiet Place, Quiet Place 2, both of them written and directed by John Krasinski. The first one was also written by some other people. Whatever their names are. Okay, I don't have it in the right spot.
Are they on The Office? No, then I don't care. I don't care.
This is a follow-up to that movie. There's some kind of apocalyptic event, maybe involves aliens who can't see, but oh my gosh, can they hear everything? And people must live silently now. Kelsey, go wait or skip on Quiet Place 2.
I'm going to say wait to see this movie. While I enjoyed the original Quiet Place, I think this one was more like Boring Place. I thought it was pretty boring. I thought it was pretty predictable. And to me, as I was watching, I thought this is like one of those movies where somebody was like, hey, I made a lot of money the first time around. Come up with a story for a sequel. And they're like, okay, I'll give it a shot. That's my honest opinion about the movie.
I'm going to say wait on this movie as well. I don't have quite as harsh of opinion on the movie.
Sorry, Jim.
As Kelsey. But I did think that it wasn't anything new. And I thought that they took what they did in the first movie, they did it again, and I thought less well.
Right, yeah.
So I think it's a wait.
It wasn't terrible.
It's a quality movie. It's made really well. I still like the things that I liked in the first movie. I like them in this movie. I think that it extols like the virtue of courage, the importance of sacrifice, the fruitfulness of sacrifice, the
seriousness of being boring,
of having hope and living your life with hope. I think that it did those things again, but it did those things in the first movie so great. And this movie just did it again. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to say that watching this, having lived during a pandemic, gives it a little bit of a different feel whenever I watch a movie that deals with a pandemic or apocalyptic type things. I'm like, could I have maybe a little less of that?
I feel like this movie, when I began, I was like, oh, I don't think I wanted to come back to this world.
Yeah.
And so, but I was stuck in it for the next hour and a half. And also, there wasn't really anything out. That first movie was, you could tell, like it was a movie that people were really excited to create. Like the writers were really excited to create it. This movie is just like, how can we get back to this world and have a plot of some kind? I thought the first movie had a lot to say about even just like, there was a lot of awesome stuff in the movie. This movie was more just like, well, if you really are a big fan of Quiet Place, maybe you'll like this. It wasn't quite Grease 2, right?
Okay.
It wasn't like Aliens decided to make Grease 2. It wasn't like
this
completely different. But listen, it's not very good. I don't know what's going on with Nathaniel's, but it's not a very good movie.
I wonder if the lack of collaboration with the writing, since John Krasinski is the only one on Rotten Tomatoes tabbed as the writer for Quiet Place 2, whereas on the first one there were 3 different people who helped to write the movie. I wonder if that lack of collaboration maybe is what resulted in something that we think's not as good. Now, if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores, spoilers, we'll get into spoilers. The Rotten Tomatoes scores for Quiet Place, and then the ones for Quiet Place 2 rates higher.
What?
And that's shocking to me. But again, we were talking about this earlier. Probably anybody watching this, you may not be familiar with boxing.
I feel angry about that.
But when you score boxing, there's often this disconnect between the scores and how scoring really works. I feel like maybe there's a disconnect on Rotten Tomatoes where how the percentage thing works with how people, because when you go on there, I don't give the movie a percentage when I go on Rotten Tomatoes and review them. I get to pick from 1 to 5 stars. So see how this works different than what the score that you get. Anyway, spoilers, Hobbit feet. This movie really zeroes in on the fact that these people had to walk barefoot, I guess to be quiet, outside And boy, do they end up with some Hobbit-looking feet. So, I don't know what you want to do with that, but that's what I'm here to give you. Rachelsey at the movies.
I feel like this movie starts with the scene that's in the trailer that we all watched for like a year. It also might be that we had to wait for a freaking... Maybe this year came out last year, and it seems like I've waited way too long for what I got. I don't care what Rotten Tomatoes said. This movie is not nearly as good as the first movie. Rotten Tomatoes is wrong. Here's the thing, though. At the beginning of this movie, it takes you back to before the events in the first movie. And so we get John Krasinski in that role that he played in the last film. But I feel like the movie, it's like, here's this. Remember these people from this movie? It was only there to give you what you loved about the first movie. You wanted to feel that again. And then they're like, no, never mind all that. Now
rips
here's
it away from you.
I mean, I know why they did it. It did set up the other character played by the Scarecrow guy. What's his name? Cillian Murphy. Cillian Murphy.
Man, if his name's Cillian,
I call you Scarecrow because you were Scarecrow in the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. But he's also been in a lot of other movies. Listen, they wanted to set that up, but it just felt cheap and like it felt like
tacked
again.
on.
It felt like somebody was like, you know what, we made a lot of money in this movie last time. See if you can come up with a plausible reason to make a second one. They're like, okay, I'll try.
Yeah. I thought that this movie used some storytelling devices that kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. One being tacking on the retro, the go back in time thing, and then you come back to the present for the rest of the movie. The other thing that they did was they had a good chunk in the movie was you had people in 3 different areas, space of time, I don't know what you want to call it, 3 settings, but the movie showed you as if they were all happening at the same time. And I thought although it did amp up the intensity, it amped that up, I thought it was kind of a cheap way, like an easy way to do it.
It's like when they start a movie with the end of the movie, and then they're like, now we're going to tell you how we got to this crazy situation, which the first time... you do that, you get if you got something new and different to do, but mostly now it's just like your story isn't good enough to just be a story, and now you've got to try to fix it.
Yeah. But
here's how boring the 3 separate stories are, Rachel. I don't even remember the 3. I just remember 2.
Well, was one the boy? Because his whole thing was completely unnecessary. Is what I think. I think
and I'm like, hey,
he wasted a bunch of oxygen.
Do not suffocate that baby in that box. That was my main concern in the movie. Like, get that baby out of the box, unless that baby absolutely has to be in that box, right?
Now, I said that his thing was worthless, but what I will say this, him, his sister, it was a character arc for them that they both found courage. They both found how to live whilst enveloped in fear and move forward anyway. And that was a big character arc for him because of something he struggled with.
The arc of the franchise.
Okay. Kelsey.
I'm just going to start being a curmudgeon about everything. That's my new thing.
I love Emily Blunt. I think she's great. I love her character. I love her as
she's the Angela
female character in this movie of a nurturing mother who's strong and courageous and does things I did put myself in this thing, and man, it is scary, climbing out of some place and thinking that these things might hear you and what the hell's going to happen, and then, it is scary, but the rest of the movie was just kind of, I don't know, it was kind of pointless. I didn't think Quiet Place 2 was necessary.
I call Emily Blunt the Angel of Verdun because of the movie Live, Die, Repeat. I don't remember. It has many names. Also call her the real Pam Beesly because she's married to John Krasinski. Also, I call her Emily Blunt because she's pretty blunt about people during her recent media tour have been asking her about the Fantastic Four, and she's sick of it, people. Have you seen that? She's sick of being asked. She hates maybe the question for sure, but she also maybe hates comic movies. So it's funny because people keep asking her if her and John Krasinski are going to make that movie.
John Krasinski,
she gets so mad about it.
Doesn't he have a dream of being
but she hates it. So I love that. Also, fourth thing about Emily I learned relatively recently because this movie, I guess they have kids, and one of their kids recently came home was like, "Mom, are you famous?" It's funny because the kid has no idea, it's just his mom.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
I love that.
Yeah.
But sorry, this movie wasn't very good. I mean, it was made well. So, and there's a lot worse movies.
Oh, yeah. That's why we're both...
want, jump scares and that stuff, it's fun.
Even Kelsey's saying wait on it because it is a well-made movie. And I got to give props to anything that is going to... I have high expectations. That is going to extol virtues and things that are uplifting and hopeful, even in the face of, really hard stuff. And even you look at this family who, a child had died in the previous movie, the father died in the previous movie, they've gone through really hard things, but yet still managed to have hope and were able to connect with another human being who had lost hope and, gave that hope to that person. So I think, I got to give props to a movie that does that. Jump scares, yes, more than once. I jumped. One time, I went and grabbed Kelsey's arm, and then I almost just wanted to be like, no! It was just so, what it was. So I did a good job with that, too. Yeah, so Quiet Place 2, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you the next time we review a movie.